Hello everybody and happy World Book Day! I am the author and illustrator Emer and I am here in my basement studio today to have a little chat with you. I thought it might be kind of fun because obviously people can't actually come into your school, but you can beam me into your school via YouTube. How exciting. Anyway, I thought maybe I would chat a little bit to you about me, my favourite subject, and then I could read to you from one of my books. How does that sound? That sounds pretty good. Right, so what can I tell you? Well, when I was your age, which was back in the last century, my very first book I ever read was called The Village Dinosaur, and it was by an author called Phyllis Arkle. You may have read it, I don't know. I think it's still in print. Anyway, this was the first book that when I could read, I read. And I remember it so clearly because we didn't have Amazon back in the last century. What we had to do, okay, this is crazy, right? We had to get a catalogue and we had to pick the book that we wanted to buy and we had to put a little tick by it and then we had to put it in an envelope and enclose the money and then we had to send it off and then, get this, we had to wait a whole month for the book to turn up. Wow. Anyway, that's why that book was so exciting to me because I had to wait a whole month for this book that I was just dying to read. So maybe that was the first book I ever read. I wonder what the first book you ever read was. Anyways, but my favourite book, okay, was called The Witches by Roald Dahl, and you may well have read that book because it is just so good. I love that book so much. And I was given it, I think it was about my 10th birthday. I was given it to my 10th birthday. I think it's when the book had first come out and it was in the hardback edition. Oh my gosh, it was so exciting. And literally, I just started reading on Christmas Day afternoon, and then I didn't finish reading the book until Boxing Day. I just kept reading and reading and reading. And I did some sleeping in between, obviously, because that's probably quite a good idea to do. But yeah, I just loved that book so much. I also really loved reading The Famous Five and Secret Seven books by Enid Blyton. And I secretly wished that I had 5 or 7 friends and a dog that I could go and have adventures with and eat. They're always drinking lemonade and eating biscuits. I so wished I could have that. But the problem was that I lived like in quite a remote little area in Devon. And I didn't have 5 or 7 friends. Like there was only 8 children in my year at school. And I think I only liked about 3 or 4 of them. So I guess I could have had 5 friends, couldn't I? Anyway, there we go. So yes, I grew up on a farm in Devon, a sheep farm. And it's on this sheep farm that I met Pig. Well, he wasn't really called Pig on the farm. He was called Salt Pork. And salt pork is kind of bacon. And it was he who gave me the inspiration to write my very first book, which was The Unbelievable Top Secret Diary of Pig. But that was many, many years later. Yes, so I grew up on a farm, and what I wanted to be, when I was at primary school, I really, really wanted to be a vet. And I used to write books about how to be a vet, and I don't know, I was crazy about being a vet. But anyway, it turned out that I wasn't very good at science, and you kind of have to be good at science to be a vet. So that was kind of the end of that. But I was good at drawing. So I went to art college and I studied graphic design, and then I went and had this big kind of glitzy career in advertising in London. And I worked for some big advertising agencies and I wrote some big TV commercials, like ones for like the John Lewis Christmas commercials. I was involved in those, so it's all really good. But about 5 years ago, I just thought, you know what? I'd much rather write children's books. So I remembered this story about Pig on the farm, about the fact that he was called Salt Pork, and Salt Pork was kind of like a kind of bacon, and because it was basically we were going to eat him, and that's how the first story that I ever wrote came about. And anyway, so I've gone on since then. I quit my job and I've been doing this for 5 years, and I think I've written 4 pig books. I know I've written 4 pig books, and I've written a picture book called Daddy Farty Pants, and I've written one book called Pest, which is the first in a new series, and there's going to be 2 more of those. So there you go, that's me. Right, so what I thought is I would read you one of my books. So I've picked for you The Big Fat Totally Bonkers Diary of Pig by me. The 4th one of the Diary of Pig series, which, as you can see, is my reading copy. Very good. Hello. Me, I is Pig. I is big and pink. Sometimes I is a bit brown if I has been rolled in mud. But my best friend Duck says I has stopped growing, that I has reached my maximum size. But I don't think this is true. I is sure when he eats a lot, he gets bigger, and when he don't eat so much, it gets a little bit smaller. Duck and I lives on Mr. and Mrs. Sandal's farm. We used to live here just with Cow and all the sheeps. That was until our last adventure, where we was joined by a turkey called Kiki. Since he's arrived, he has lived with me in my house. I never thought I'd want to be sharing my house with anyone. But Kiki is big and fluffy and makes the best pillow ever, so I is really not complaining. Oh, and he is very nice too, which of course is more important than the pillow thing. Well, sort of. He says one day he will move out and get his house of his own, but I don't think he really means this. Even though he has never said it, I knows the idea of sleeping alone in the dark scares him. Since he arrived, Kiki has been doing his very best to join in with the silly games we loves playing, but I can tell that deep down he is not really enjoying them as much as we does. When we play Cal's favourite game, Where's Walk, he spends more of his time finding things to make jewellery out of than he does finding Cal. He made quite an amazing ring for one of his scaly toes out of an old nut the other day. He was super proud of it. He can't play Name That Fart neither, because he has an oversensitive beak. This is a huge shame. Name That Fart is my most favourite game in the whole wide world, and we has just made it even better. Now, it isn't just about doing farts what sound like animals. You can do farts what sound like anything. Tractors, spaceships, submarines. The other day I did my best one yet. Luckily for Kiki, he wasn't too far away to smell it, but he still heard it. OMG, Pig! That is totally, utterly gross-mungus, he shouted across the yard, placing his wings over his ears and making a face like he was about to be sick. Wrong answer, Duck shouted back. It's not gross-mungus, it's a combine harvester, ha! Me and Duck found this very funny. Duck is not only my best friend, he is also the best guesser of my fart noises ever. He loves playing games together. Duck used to have a big family to play with, but then one night Fox came and gobbled them all up. Nasty, nasty Fox. Kiki says he doesn't mind not playing games with us. He says he's just happy to be here with such fantastic friends. Before we met us, he never had any. To say a super special thank you to me for being his friend and for letting him share my shed, he has made me this new diary. I am super impressed. It looks just as good as any of the other Farmer White made ones I has used before. I loves keeping a diary. I is not sure what I shall call this one. Kiki has suggested I call it The Absolutely Fabulously Wonderful Diary of Pig and All His Incredibly Lovely Friends. But I thinks that is a bit too long. So I has decided to call it The Big Fat Totally Bonkers Diary of Pig. Oddsy day. Hello. As this is the first time I has been writing in a while, I is feeling I should tell you what has been happening. That way, when I starts to tell you what is actually happening right now, you will be understanding it better. First, I need to tell you about the Sandals and how hard they has been working. The Sandals really is the most amazing farmers anyone could ever want to live with. They is vegetarian. This means instead of growing animals to eat, they grows yummy veggies. Owners that don't want to eat you is the best kind you can have. They started off just growing a few, but their veggies is so tasty that other farmers started wanting them too. So they has grown more and more. They has even had to make their own veggie patch bigger to make space to grow them all. He wishes that they would extend it into my pig house. It would be so amazing to have a bedroom filled up with delicious turnips and yummy carrots, but maybe not that amazing for very long. I don't think I could help but eat them all up, and I know that would make Mr. and Mrs. Sandal extremely cross. Anyways, Mr. and Mrs. Sandal works very hard. Every day they work from when the sun comes up until the sun goes down. Duck says they has got a bad case of workaholism. I hopes it's not catching. I wouldn't want to be working so hard all day. In fact, I doesn't want to be working at all. That would stop me having so much fun and time to play. Workaholism makes you do some odd things. The other day, Mr. Sandal was sitting in his special chair singing away to his veggies when all of a sudden he fell asleep. 1 minute I was listening to him going la-di-da-do-do-do, and the next I was listening to him snoring. He dribbled all down his nice rainbow-coloured jumper too. Poor Mr. Sandal. And Mrs. Sandal is no better. Yesterday she gave me a bowl of sheep's pellets instead of my normal piggy slops. Sheep's food is yuck. It makes my tongue go all dry and funny. I tried to tell her that she had made a mistake, but she just did a big yawn, patted me on the head and walked off. The second thing I need to tell you is sort of strange, and I feels a bit silly even saying it, but I has to, because it's really bothering me. I thinks I is being watched. I has no idea by who or what. I has never actually seen anyone watching me, which is why I knows it sounds really silly. I just has this really strong feeling they is, and it won't go away. It all started the other day when me and Duck was over at his pond trying to work out whether if I did a big enough fart I could fire myself from one side to the other. I was just trying to see how many seconds I could fart for without stopping. I managed 6 on my first attempt. Woo! And Duck was doing something he called mathematical calculations. He really is so smart. We had just decided it might be possible if I lost a bit of weight but remained just as fatty, when all of a sudden all the little hairs on my body stands up on end and I gets this feeling like someone is looking at me. Really staring. It felt horrible. When I looked around to see who it was, I couldn't see anyone. Cow was in her shed eating some hay, and the sheep was all in their field busy scratching themselves against their fence. They is very woolly at the moment, and this makes them extremely itchy. And Kiki was over by the old barn looking for things to make himself a new necklace from. I told Duck about my strange feeling, but he just laughed and said, "Who would want to spy on you, the fat police?" He found his joke really funny. I loves him very much, but he can be so annoying sometimes. I guess he is probably right though. Who would want to spy on me? I really isn't that interesting. Bad fartsy day. Hello. Today we is all getting a big surprise. It pulled into the yard just after breakfast. Duck tells me it's called a camper van. Farmers travels around in them when they want a break from living in their houses. The camper van is painted all over with flowers, rainbows, sunshines and birds. On the side is a large picture of a black cat. I has to say, I is really not sure about cats. Not after the last one I met tried to kill me. I really hopes that this is not a cat. There is not a real cat inside the van. The owner of the camper van is the craziest looking lady farmer what I has ever seen. She has long grey hair which is piled up on top of her head like a giant bird's nest. She wears a little round pair of glasses what makes her eyes look bigger than they is, and in her ears she wears these enormous gold hoops. Her clothes is as bright and as patterned as her van, and she is wearing at least 100 necklaces and bracelets. On her feet she wears the most amazing sandals. They makes the ones Mr. and Mrs. Sandal wear look very boring. They is covered all over in coloured beads and little dangly silver circles, what makes a jingle-jangle sound when she walks. I can immediately tell that Kiki likes her. "Wow-wee! What a fantabulously beautiful creature," he says, fluffing out all his tail feathers trying to get her attention. Mrs. Sandal runs over and gives the crazy-looking lady farmer a huge hug. She says something to her what Duck translates as meaning that she is Mrs. Sandal's aunt. Duck listens in. He says she has come to look after us while Mr. and Mrs. Sandal go on something called a yoga retreat. Duck says this is the perfect kind of holiday for farmers like the Sandals. He tells me it involves spending every day eating veggies and bending into funny positions. This sounds like a very odd sort of holiday to me. I mean, I gets the eating part, but not the bending bit. How silly. So long as Mrs. Jingle Jangle feeds me delicious slops, I is sure I won't miss the Sandals too much, I says. Kiki thinks my name for her is very funny. I is very good at making up names. The Sandals shows Mrs. Jingle Jangle around the yard. She leaves her van open, so whilst they is busy looking at the veggie patch, me, Duck and Kiki has a sneaky peek. It's just as amazing looking on the inside. Everything is covered in patterns. Her chair, her bed, her kitchen, and the ceiling is completely covered in material, what makes it look like a starry sky. Kiki can't stop saying OMG. I looks all around. I can see lots of pictures of a cat, but luckily I can't see a real one. Phew. Just after lunch, a big bus pulls outside the gate. It has a large sunshine painted on the side, with a picture of a farmer sitting in a very strange position in the middle of it. Inside it is full of other farmers, what looks just like Mr. and Mrs. Sandal. It beeps its horn, and Mr. and Mrs. Sandal comes out of their house with some big bags. They gets on the bus and waves goodbye to us. Mrs. Jangle waves back. She jingles and jangles from top to bottom. As we watches the bus drive away, I gets my strange being spied on feeling again. "Duck," I says, "I is being watched, just like I was the other day. I can feel it. I really can, right now." "Of course you're being watched," says Duck, "by all the farmers on the bus. They probably never seen such a big pink pig." He gives my tummy a little prod with his wing and laughs. I spends the rest of the day trying to forget about it. Luckily, Mrs. Jingle Jangle brings me supper a bit early. Slops always takes my mind off things. I is super excited to see what kind she makes. Every farmer is different. I eats them up very quickly, making lots of happy oinking noise sounds. I really wants to impress her with my eating skills. I can eat lots very fast. She laughs and talks to me in farmer. Pig translates for me. "What a greedy piggy. You're just like a hoover, gobbling up anything and everything." Mrs. Jangle is very funny. She thinks I is a pig hoover, a poover. I has to say though, if I is honest, I is not enjoying Mrs. Jingle Jangle slaps as much as I thought I would. They is very different to any I has had before, and not in a good way. They taste a bit like the way Mrs. Jingle Jangle smells, of flowers, and they does terrible things to my bottom. After I has finished eating, I does the strangest smelling fart ever. It smells like roses, what grows in the Sandal's garden. I is really not happy about this. Pig farts is not supposed to smell nice. My flowery farting makes Kiki very happy though. He doesn't make him pass out. In fact, just the opposite. He says he finds them totes delightful and praises Mrs. Jingle Jangle for her genius new slops recipe. He even suggests a new fart game, air freshener or flower, where you has to guess which my fart smells more like. I is really not sure how I feels about any of this. Spooksy day. Hello. I has to say, I has never seen Kiki as happy as I have seen him with Mrs. Jingle Jangle. It is not that he has been unhappy with us, it's just he seems to have found a whole new happiness with her. He immediately likes her too. She may not make the best slaps, but there is something gentle and kind about her. She gives us all nice pets and strokes. She also sings all the time. I likes the sound of her songs. They makes me feel happy. I can tell, though, straight away that Kiki is her favourite. I is not jealous about this at all. In fact, I is quite pleased. His last owner was so evil to him. He deserves someone nice to love him. After Mrs. Jingle Jangle has fed us all breakfast and given us our pats and back scratches, she opens the door to her van and encourages Kiki inside. He happily goes in and doesn't come out again for ages. As soon as he does, I calls him over to Duck's Pond so he can tell us all about his visit. He's never been invited to spend time with a farmer. I wonders what they gets up to inside their homes. Does they have sleeps like us? Does they play games? Kiki is so excited to tell us what happened that we doesn't even have to ask him. Oh, it was so fantabulous, he babbles. She is incredible, so nice and kind and caring. You know that cat she has pictures of everywhere? Well, that used to be her cat. I think its name was Moonstone, only something terrible happened to it. I noticed she had a picture of this little cat-shaped gravestone. It had farmer writing on it. I could just understand the words cruelly eaten and neighbour's dog. How tragic. He lets out a very brief sad sigh. Anyway, get this. I think she wants me to be her new Moonstone. I think it's because I'm just like him. I have the same colour tail as he did, black with white bits at the end. Spooky, right? When Mrs. Jingle Jangle noticed it, she started stroking it, saying Moonstone's name over and over. In that moment, I really think we both can be connected. You know, like spiritually. Duck does a little swirly sign with his wing next to his head. Crazy, he mouths at me. So you didn't play any games at all? I asked, slightly disappointed. I hoped I was going to learn something new. Well, says Kiki excitedly, flapping his wings, we did do some tea leaf reading. That's kind of like a game. You take a cup of tea, and when it's almost finished, you look inside and study the leftover tea leaves. You look at these things, and they tell you what's going to happen to you. Mrs. Jingle Jangle did a reading for me. She said I was destined for high places. How exciting is that? Me, Kiki, becoming something marvelicious. Now, I know how it works. I could read your future fortune for you if you like. I doesn't drink tea, I points out. No problemo, says Kiki. I'm sure slops will work just the same. Come on, let's give it a go. Well, he's pretty sure it's a waste of time. If my slops is telling Kiki anything, it'll be that I'm going to do some more flowery farts. But he is so excited about doing it that I feels I has to let him. So, when Mrs. Jingle Jangle brings me my supper slops, I leaves a bit of them in the bottom of my bowl. I has to say, for once, this is not hard to do. Today they taste even weirder. Duck and me watches Kiki as he swirls them round and round. He asks if I can do one of my nice new farts to help him create the perfect ambience. I manages to conjure one up. It smells like the yellow flowers what come out in springtime. Air freshener, says Kiki, sniffing. No, hang on. Sorry, wrong. Flower. Primrose, yes. Definitely primrose. Am I right? He looks over at me as he swirls. I rolls my eyes and shakes my head. He's not playing this game. Spoil sport, he says. Finally, he stops swirling. Me and Ducks gives each other a "this should be funny" look. Kiki peers into the gooey mess in the bottom of my bowl and jumps back in horror. No! He cries, covering his beak with his wing. Oh, no! Oh, no, what? I asks. Is my farts about to go back to the great smelling ones you hate? It's much worse than that, he says, not finding me funny. Something terrible is going to happen to you. Something really terrible. His farts are going to go smelling like primroses forever, laughs Duck. No, says Kiki, getting very cross. It's serious, really serious. Primroses, that would be serious, right, Pig? Says Duck, giving me a nudge. I laughs along with him. Then I remembers all the funny feelings I was been having about being watched. What if Kiki's fortune telling has something to do with this? I continues to laugh with Duck, but inside I is not thinking it is all quite as funny as it was a minute ago. So, there we go. Who is watching Pig and what is going on? Well, you could read the Big Fat Bonkers Diary of Pig yourselves and find out. And in the meantime, if you want to find out more about Pig, you can go to diaryofpig.com. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to emmastamp.com or watch some of these videos on my YouTube channel. Anyway, I so wish that I could be with you in person today, but I'm going to just have to do with being on this funny video screen. Anyway, give your teachers a nudge and tell them that you'd like me to come in and see you for real, and we'll see if we can sort it out. Anyway, have a lovely rest of your World Book Day, and yeah, maybe one day I'll see you for real. Take care, guys. Bye bye.